96-90, 29 seconds left. Down 3-1 in Madison Square Garden. If you were just tuning in, you'd be absolutely crazy to think that the Sixers win this game. To understand how they found themselves in this situation and ultimately how they escaped it, we've got to take it back to the beginning. The start of this game was pretty nasty. Neither team could really create good looks, and when they did, they were missing. But it was very fast paced, so you had this back and forth of just bad possession after bad possession, which to the naked eye might have actually looked like a high school matchup. In all seriousness, the Sixers started this game shooting 2 of 12, both of their makes coming from Tobias Harris, while the Knicks found themselves still scoreless after more than 4 minutes of play. They were 0 of 8 from the field, and it was only when Hartenstein got fouled on one of his push shots that he'd put them on the board with some free throws. Right about now is when the Sixers started to roll. It started with an open side post up for Embiid, and when he draws a double, he's got Maxey spotted up one pass away for a 3. After that, they're able to force a turnover on the other end, which leaves Maxey with an opportunity to show off his unrivaled speed as he takes it to the house. Next time down, it's a bit slower, and they go to set action. Joel's going to set a back screen for Tobias to cut, and nobody picks him up down low, so it's an easy catch and finish. That basket put them up 12-4, and right on cue, here came the Knicks. Brunson comes off a screen and patiently works his way to the rim for a tough finish. Then on the other side, Joel loses the ball in the post, to which they take off on a fast break. It's a 5-on-4, so by moving the ball, they're able to find OG for an open dunk. As for their defense, they didn't have nearly as much success when it came to slowing down Maxey. His speed when attacking downhill is just so tough to contain, so when the Sixers go to their patented two-man game, Hartenstein is going to commit to the ball, not at all worried about Joel on the pop. The big man doesn't take the 3, instead trying his hand at a drive, and OG meets him at the rim for a huge block. Joel was really struggling to open this game. This time he's going to set up more traditionally with a low post isolation, and the jump hook doesn't fall. Like clockwork, the Knicks use that miss to get into some quick offense, and it's Josh Hart who puts his head down for 2 points plus a foul, cutting that lead down to 1. Because those inside the arc isolations weren't working too well, they're going to go back to some set action. This play is designed for Maxey, curling off a screen towards the ball, and he attacks a closeout on a drive, getting all the way to the rim for 2. Another thing they made an effort to do was attack in early offense before the defense can set. A trailing Joel catches the ball with some space to take advantage of, which he does with one of his signature pull-up jumpers. Maxey's speed is often what makes these types of possessions possible. With a chance to go 2 for 1 at the end of the quarter, he turns on the Jets and touches the paint before drawing a foul. That takes us to the first buzzer, Philly holding on to a 9-point lead. To start the second, it was all Jalen Brunson. On an open side isolation, he gets to a step back jumper, then on the next one he starts up top, attacks left before spinning back to his right, which leaves him with some room for a floater. How about some pick and roll? He jabs left only to reject the screen on a drive right, and he's really just getting whatever he wants. You sprinkle in some key contributions from role players like a Josh Hart drive and kick to OG up top, and in the blink of an eye we've got a tie game. That's when the Sixers decided to get Embiid back on the floor, and when he gets doubled he makes the right read to skip it cross court, where one extra pass leads to a corner 3, but Batum just doesn't knock it down. They get a second chance though, and this time Joel's gonna try facing up for a jumper, which Robinson denies, and the Knicks waste no time getting out in transition. Hart once again drives and kicks, this time to McBride for the lead. That ability to turn defense into offense time and time again made it really tough for the Sixers to keep up. This time it's McBride who steals a pass and attacks one-on-one to get some easy points, and then in the half court it's right back to Brunson. He uses a ball screen, works his way to the elbow, and pulls up for a jumper. Next time down, it's the same thing with a screen going right, and you can see how he patiently waits for Embiid to drop before attacking. Maxey ends up reaching at the nail, and he's got a pair of free throws. On the other end, the Sixers were still struggling to put the ball in the basket. It's like we're in a time loop as Joel catches on an open side, draws 2, makes the right skip to the opposite wing, which leads to a corner 3, and the shooters simply weren't hitting. That scoreless spell finally ended when Tobias Harris got his chance at a corner three and knocked it down, but Joel just continued to struggle as a scorer. This time they start his post up with a cross screen to get him open, and that's as good of a shot as he'll ever get. You pair that with the fact that Brunson is firing on all cylinders, and before you know it, he's once again using the mid-range to put his team up 8. Then Joel finally makes something happen when he steps into a top of the key triple, only for Brunson to come right back with a 3-pointer of his own. Because he's obviously feeling it, next time he sets up the high pick and roll, Joel gets ready to play at the level of the screen. Hartenstein instead slips down the middle, where he draws a foul for a chance to put them up 10. Philly keeps going back to those open side isolations for Joel, and this time to avoid the double, he quickly attacks baseline, where he sees a pass to the corner that actually ends up going out of bounds. He'd have a chance to redeem himself on the other end though, when Hartenstein decides to test him at the rim, and his rejection gives them an opportunity to run in transition. The ball ends up in the hands of Maxey in the corner, and he attacks that unset defense for a layup. Once again, playing with pace was clearly a point of emphasis, and this time it's Nick Batum who benefits with a top of the key 3. Then when they want to run through Joel, instead of a post up, they go to his bread and butter, a face up from the middle of the floor, and he steps back for an elbow jumper with some soft touch off the rim. That brings us to the closing seconds, where they decide to trap Brunson and make somebody else beat them, and who better than Josh Hart to step into a short floater. With one more possession to go, it's Maxey's speed on a drive that allows them to beat the buzzer, and this is a truly tough finish to cut it down to 6 as we head into the break. Early in the third, it looked like we might see a repeat of that second. Brunson isolates from the middle, takes his time, and spins into a tough fall-away jumper, but actually these minutes were more about how Philly switched up their attack. The ball starts with Joel in the middle, and he finds Maxey cutting backdoor for an easy 2 points. And the key is that they finally started going to what they do best, the two-man game. This time it's a little give and go. Maxey creates some space with a jab and hits a mid-range jumper of his own. Of course, when possible, he's still going to look to attack in early offense, and this explosive drive actually got them the lead back. They weren't done just yet though. When they start to set up the pick and roll, the Knicks are going to ice the screen, forcing Maxey towards the sideline. He plays into the coverage, knowing it'll leave Joel with some room as he steps into 2 points. Next time down, it's the exact same thing, except instead of an open jumper, Joel has to make a play off the catch, driving through contact and floating it up for a chance at 3. They didn't completely go away from those open side post-ups for Joel, and as I mentioned earlier, when he gets doubled, he's got Maxey one pass away, who's just an absolute flamethrower. I should probably mention that while all of this is going down, the Knicks really aren't having much trouble scoring. When they set up the high pick and roll, Embiid's going to start a bit closer to the level, and Maxey falls asleep, which leaves Josh Hart with a baseline cut and finish. A few minutes later, it looks like they're setting up the pick and roll again, but Brunson instead decides to quickly hit Hart in the corner, and the Sixers make no effort to close out on his 3. Even on a broken possession, they're getting great looks. Hartenstein swats an offensive rebound right into the hands of Brunson, who's left with all the time in the world. And when the Sixers decide to trap him and get it out of his hands, he makes a basic pass to Hart, and one more leads to DiVincenzo for yet another long-range jumper. At this point, both offenses are rolling. The Knicks are going to continue icing that pick and roll, but this time a third defender steps over to take away Joel in the middle, to which he makes the right read by moving it over to Harris for an open 3 in the corner. And here they're about to set it up again when Maxey rejects the screen on one of his explosive drives, where he draws 2 extra defenders in the paint before kicking it out to Campaign for, you guessed it, an open 3. This third quarter featured all sorts of lead changes, and in the final minute, Hart hit a floater to put the Knicks up 1, which is how it would remain as we approach the fourth. 12 minutes to go, and New York leads with a score of 70-69. Philly opened the fourth with the two-man game. Nobody steps up to meet Maxey, so he gets to a pull-up jumper, and a play later they're about to set it up again when he instead rejects it to get downhill, collapsing the defense for an easy kick out to Batum, and 3 more are on the board. So why not set it up again? Now it's Joel's turn to reject it, faking a handoff and attacking on a drive, only he loses the ball, which leaves Brunson with a wide open floor where he and Cam Payne make contact before sharing a few choice words. Still, much like those guys in Denver, they're gonna run that two-man game over and over again. Here's one where Maxey applies pressure before leaving it to Joel in the middle, although his jumper comes off a bit strong, and on the next one, Maxey's gonna throw an absolutely vicious crossover to create separation with a ton of room to step back for a triple. Then there's another one that starts with Joel in the middle, and he decides to once again reject the action. He doesn't find any space and looks for an outlet, only to throw another turnover. I was really disappointed with some of his decision making during this stretch. They go back to one of his open side post-ups, knowing that the Knicks are going to send a double, and Philly's spacing isn't exactly great, but he does have a few options, especially this 2-on-1 on the weak side. The ball never makes it there though. Every time they have one of those empty possessions, whether it's the result of a missed shot or a turnover, the Knicks are just scraping together a collection of buckets that adds up to enough points to remain in control. And this isolation from Brunson where he scores through contact for a chance at 3 actually puts them up by 6. Thankfully, the Sixers had a savior. I don't know how many times this exact play has to happen for the Knicks to realize that helping off of Maxey from one pass away isn't a good idea, and even when Robinson is able to strip Joel in the post, it finds Maxey on the perimeter, who quickly beats any closeouts coming his way before dumping it off to Oubre for 2. With just under 2 minutes to go, they found themselves trailing by 3. Joel sets up on the open side, and the Knicks don't send a double. Single coverage seems like a dream, only for Robinson to once again pick his pocket. It goes right to OG, who wastes no time getting off the line like some sort of drag racer on his way to a dunk. Now they're needing a quick bucket, and who better than the guy who has torched an early offense all night long to get to the paint for a floater and a foul. It's like no matter how many punches they throw though, the Knicks, and Jalen Brunson in particular, have a counter, working his way to the middle of the floor for a mid-range J. With no possessions to waste, Maxey makes the mistake of turning it over and immediately fouling OG, meaning that they're heading into the final minute down 2 possessions. For seemingly the first time in forever, it's someone besides Maxey or Joel who gets into the defense and creates an opportunity. Then on the other end, they decide to make anyone but Brunson beat them. Leaving McBride with that much room to shoot doesn't seem like the answer. Now we arrive at down 6, 29 seconds left. It doesn't even seem possible to come back, well, unless you have Tyrese Maxey. He finds a way to keep the game alive when he scores a 4-point play, and on the other end, they foul Josh Hart, who only hits 1 of the 2 free throws. That door is still open. This possession is just amazing. You can see Thibs on the sideline yelling at his team to foul, but they never have a chance because Maxey's pulling from the logo, and all of Philadelphia's prayers have been answered. It'll get lost in time that Brunson had a chance to win, and 35-year-old Nick Batum not only sticks with him on a drive, he blocks his floater. We're headed to overtime. Opening up the extra period was Brunson. When he comes off a screen, he sees Joel in a deep drop and uses that space to pull up for 3. And then a play later, when Joel steps up a bit higher to take away the jumper, Brunson turns the corner with speed, beating him off the dribble for a lay. On the other side of things, I'm sure you could guess how Philly was getting into their offense, and Robinson's also in deep drop coverage, so Maxey has just as much access to the 3-point line. The real story of OT, though, was Joel Embiid. The MVP finally arrived, and he truly took this game over. On defense, he's completely shutting off the paint from the entire Knicks roster, and the Sixers can use that defense to create easy offense going the other way. When Brunson sets up pick and roll, he's still going to be in drop, but he brings it a lot closer to the level, then uses his length to strip the ball right out of his hands. Then he comes down and attacks from up top, where he draws contact and floats it up and in for another potential 3-point play. He completely changed this game with his paint defense. Again, you have the high drop, and notice how he sort of angles his body like he's baiting Brunson into a trap. He sends a finish attempt out of bounds, and you can see how badly he's hurting. Playing nearly 48 minutes in this condition is absolutely absurd. Brunson wasn't afraid though. He continued to attack Joel in that deep drop, this time getting hit in the face and drawing a flagrant 1 call. Then on the second try, using that space to once again pull up for a 3, tying it up at 106. The Sixers go to one of their set actions, a back screen from Joel for Oubre to cut, and it looks like free points until the pass gets fumbled, although he's still able to find an angle to finish through traffic. On the other side, it's a Brunson isolation, and he gets exactly what he wants on a floater, but is unable to convert, and it ends up going out of bounds. All Philly has to do is take care of the ball and make sure they get a good shot, which they of course fail to do, and once again give New York life. One possession, a chance to either tie or take the lead. Brunson appears to be setting up a 3, which leads to a miscommunication with Hartenstein, and from there it's theatrics. A couple take fouls as the Sixers close this one at the line, and they live to fight another day. Words can't even begin to describe this performance from Maxey. 46 points and 9 assists on 69% true shooting in a game that was slanted towards defense? That's absolutely remarkable. Joel obviously had his flaws with the 9 turnovers and poor shooting from the field, but I do think he made a lot of good plays as a passer, and even more importantly, he completely changed the dynamic of the game down the stretch through his world-class rim protection. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to drop a like, subscribe, and turn my post notifications on to be first on more content. If you're interested in my more in-depth research, make sure to check out my website and social media profiles. You can find those links in the description. Feel free to let me know down in the comments what you thought of this game. As always, I hope you all have a great day, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.